Hey guys! Today I am planning on doing a really quick video going over HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. We'll create a really simple project, but I want to just kind of go back over those elements along with arrays. So let's get to it. Here is what we're going to be making. This is a very simple random joke generator. And when you click Get Joke, it will give you a different meme image and a random joke, both of which will be from two different array lists. Here is our setup. I just started on a brand new project, and keep in mind that all of this can be changed. Like, you can slow it down. I'm going to go through everything very fast, but you can always pause and you can add extra to it. I'm not going to do this the best way. I'm going to do it a simple way that is correct and easy to follow. So getting started, first thing I would do is I would add a new file. So a new file, I can even go to HTML file. This is actually going to be my index. Index is important because anytime you open up a web page, the server is going to look for index.html or index.php, depending on how it's set up, but it's always looking for an index first. And I'm not going to create a Git repository for this because I don't really need it. Okay, the setup is all pretty fine. I would add extra stuff to make this more compatible with different browsers. However, this is just for demonstration, so I'm going to keep the head exactly how it is. I might change the title for random joke generator. And one extra thing I am going to add is a link to my style sheet. This is going to be the CSS, and this is how everything is going to appear. The HTML is going to give all the elements, but the CSS is going to make them look different on the screen. And I'll probably want to make that file right now. There's a couple ways I could do it. I could go File, New, probably a regular file, and then change it to .css. Or, nice thing about WebStorm is right over here. I can just say create that file for me. No, I'm not adding that to a get. And there it is. I'm not going to do anything with it yet, but I will do something with it soon. Now, inside of the body, I'm just going to add a few very simple elements. First one is going to be a header, which will say random joke generator. H1 stands for header. And there's a few different types of headers, but we won't get too far into it. It's essentially text. And then underneath that, I actually kind of like the idea of just doing a div ID for joke. And inside of it, we'll have some text. How about click the button below for a random joke in me. Underneath that, we will add a button. I'll just do that as a div ID buttons. Or how about I do this? I'll actually make it a button. Give an ID. How about I'll call it joke button. And inside the button, I'll right click me. And I have one other element I wanted to add, and that is an image. Now, inside my image, I will want an ID. I'm going to call it meme. And if I'm going to use the image tag, then I need some sort of source. This actually does not exist. So one of the easiest things I can do is just pull up a random, here, I'll show you. Meme images with no text. Oh, there's a nice weird one. Maybe a little too weird for me. Oh, that was a good one. All right, I'm going to copy that image address, and I'm just going to put that inside of the source. There it is. Alt is alternate text. If this image is broken, it will give this text instead of the image. And I think that is really about it for my HTML elements. When I run this code, I'm going to click it in debug mode. The nice thing about debug mode is I can make changes on the fly and you can see it. But sure enough, there it is, random joke generator. There's an image. I've got my button. I've got really just about everything I need. Next, I'm going to want to stylize this a little bit. Now, I'm going to do all the style inside of my CSS. And let me show you all of that really quick. I'm just going to move this around to make it easier to follow. And again, the really cool thing about running this in debug mode is any changes that I make here will actually show up over here. So inside of my CSS, I'm just going to start off very simple. I will not get too complicated with this. But I'll start off with the background. And inside the background, I will change the color. Oh, I'm sorry, background. I meant body. Inside the body, right there, I just changed the background color to black. And if I want to change the text to white, I'll say color instead of 000 FFF. There we go. If I want to center everything, then I will, let's see, text align, center. And now everything's in the middle. Some extra little things. If I want my text to look different, then there's a few ways I can do it. But let's say I want my random joke generator text to look a little different. So to do that, H1 is built in just like body is. So with H1, if I add that to my CSS, that will override what the typical header is. First thing, the color. How about I make it red? So that'll be F00. Looks good. If I want to change the size of it, I can do font size, 50 pixels. That's looking a little bit better. If I want to change the font style or font weight, I can do that as well. It doesn't look much different, but maybe a little bit different. And let's do some other little things. Let's change this font as well. So to do that, that font falls under the ID joke. So if I want to change the CSS of something by the ID, then I'm going to write a hash symbol and then the name of that ID. So now joke is going to be red. The font size can be whatever I would like it to be. Let's go. That looks pretty good. And maybe I'll make it like a totally different color. How about yellow? And I could add a lot more to this. You can see that like I can change my font family. I can just go by the font sizes. There are a lot of different things that I can change in here, but I'm just going to keep it really, really simple for now. And let me change that button a little bit as well. So, okay, if I go by ID, then I would use the hash symbol for my CSS. But if instead of ID, I want to make an entire class called joke button, it's very, very similar. The only difference is instead of hash symbol, I'll just write dot joke button. And then again, I can change different elements of it. Let's see. These are not working. Looks like. Just make sure I spelled it correctly. Yep, the spelling's fine. Let me go back to ID for now. It will just go faster.
Hey, need a spot.
Maybe make the text black.
What's up?
And let's change the size of it.
Start back on
So, oops. How about I go width? 500 pixels. Might change the font height. Or font size. 50. I can also do some things like change the border radius.
We'll hope mascot again.
That curves those edges. And everything's looking a little bit better. One strange thing is all of my images will be the exact size of the image that I took from the source. So if I want all my images to be roughly the same size, or if I just want them to all be the same height, what I would probably end up doing is I would call the image by that ID. So hash symbol meme. And I'm really just going to change the height. How about the height will be 200 pixels. We'll go 300 pixels. And the width, we will just go auto. And the reason for that is what this is going to do is it will make all of the meme images the same height, but the width will change to whatever size it's supposed to be, so that it keeps the same aspect ratio that it originally had. All right, everything's looking pretty good. So my HTML and my CSS are fine. Right now, I don't have any sort of JavaScript, so clicking a button does not do anything. So to add the JavaScript, I'm going to need to do a couple things. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to reference the JavaScript inside my HTML, otherwise it will not work. And let me stop this for now. And inside a script, I'm going to give a source. That source is going to be, how about I call it joke.javascript. Or, yeah, we'll go joke.javascript. And then, of course, I do need to make this file. So let's go ahead and do that. New JavaScript file, we'll call it joke. There it is. So now it's actually referenced. And inside of the JavaScript, this is where I'm going to make really all of my programming. And all I really want is I want it so that when you click this button, then a different joke and a different meme will show up. So let me show you how to do that. First of all, I'd probably want to add a few global variables. And I'm going to use const because these variables are really not going to change. These will be lists, so I'm going to call one jokes. And the other one I'm going to call images, or how about I call it memes, because images may already be taken. And inside of these arrays, what I'm going to do is I'm going to replace this with jokes, and I'm going to replace this with a bunch of image URLs. And then next, I'm going to add a couple of extra variables. These variables will correlate with the meme image and one for the joke text. So let's call one meme. And in order to get it, it'll be document.getElement by ID meme. And then the next one will be one for the joke. Get element by ID joke. Perfect. And then next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add what's known as a listener to this button. And more specifically, it will be a click listener. So once I click on the button, it will do a function. So to write that little bit of code, I'm just going to write this. Documents.getElement by ID. And it's going to be the name of that button, which is joke button. I'm just going to copy and paste that so that I don't screw it up. And then dot add event listener. Click, and then I could write my entire function here, but that's probably not the best way to do it right now. I'm just going to create a function which we'll call showJoke. And then, of course, in order for this to work and not give me a warning, I need to create that function. The function called showJoke. And then this will be some really, really simple code, but I'm going to want it to be a random index value from the list of jokes and a random index value from the list of memes. So in order to do that, let me start off with the meme. So meme.src. The reason why I'm doing .src is because that is the source of the image. So meme.src, so changing the source, that is going to equal one of these random memes. So it will be memes, and then what index? Well, a random index. What this does, math.floor, is it rounds it down to the nearest integer. What math.random does is gives me a value between 0 and 1, and if I multiply that to the length of this, not including 1, but it will go from 0 to 1, multiply it by the meme's length. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This will give me a random double or decimal value between 0 and 5, not actually including 5. Math.floor is going to change that so that's no longer a decimal, and it will give me a random value between 0 and 5, but not including 5. So really 0 to 4. But this will show the joke. Change the image source. And then for the joke, it's actually really the exact same thing. Very, very similar. This is not a source. What I'm actually going to change is the text inside of the HTML tags. So what that means is it will be joke.innerHTML. And that is going to be something from, not memes, but jokes. At the length of the jokes. So this will change text inside of the joke tag. All right, so that does it for our JavaScript, our CSS, and our HTML. Now let's go ahead and run it and see if that JavaScript actually works. Okay, everything looks the same so far. And if I click me, fantastic. It changed to a different meme and a different joke. These are random, so sometimes you might end up getting the exact same thing more than once. And there's only a few. But everything works exactly how I want it to, which is fantastic. So I essentially have all of my elements which show up in the HTML. HTML also has to link to my JavaScript and to my CSS. I have the CSS, which changes the appearance of all my HTML items. And then finally, I have my program, which is the JavaScript, and that gives me my global variables, or I wrote my global variables. My elements that I'm going to change from my HTML, I added a listener for my button, and then a function for what that button will do when you press it. I hope this was helpful. Happy coding. Of course, keep building on this. This was just like a basic intro so that you can get started and keep going. Sky is the limit. Have fun.